Hello, and welcome to the Stolen Minutes YouTube channel. My name is Carrie, and you can find me in just about all of the places as Stolen Minutes. On Instagram, I am Stolen Minutes _ Ravelry, I am Stolen Minutes, and I have an Etsy shop, Stolen Minutes, where I make project bags for knitters and crocheters. So this is a podcast all about what I am knitting and crocheting and probably cats, because we have 4 and they just make their appearances. So truth be told, I already had recorded, I thought I had recorded a good chunk of this podcast, and I realized I had not hit record. So that's a little frustrating. Luckily, I hadn't gotten too far before I realized it. I don't know. I feel like I am, so my Etsy shop is currently on vacation. I closed it midway through December to enjoy our winter break, and then after Christmas, we all got sick. And so the way it kind of went through our family, my husband and I ended up getting sick after New Year's, and so it was like 2 weeks of just being spacey and totally out of it and not feeling good. Just congestion and that kind of thing. It evolved into a sinus infection and double ear infections for our kids, their teens, but it just hit them hard. And then, it's just been a whirlwind. So this feels like the first weekend of normal where everyone is fairly healthy. So college kid is already back to college. I totally had planned to do a Vlogmas update with her because she has done so much crocheting over the past year, and I really wanted to share that, but we all ended up sick, so that just wasn't going to happen. So I don't even know where I was going with that. Anyways, you'll probably see cats from time to time. This is Shadow. He is lounging on a table that is behind my couch that I bought specifically for the cats to be able to lay here and look out the window and watch the birds. And it's a favorite spot for everybody. So they all rotate through it at some point during the days because it's a great spot. Now Chet is over in another window watching a squirrel or something. So today is Saturday, January 13th, and it's a cold one out there. We had rain all day yesterday, and then the temperatures really dropped, and it's probably in the single digits right now, but it's really, really been super gusty all night. You could hear it blowing against the windows and stuff. We have a little bit of snow on the ground, but I can still see the grass. So it's nothing to get too worked up about. It's just really windy and cold. So, I think that's kind of all the intro stuff. Did I say everything? I think I did. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about my one finished project off of the needles, and I will talk about 3 projects that I still have on my needles that will also be my Vlogmas December Advent knitting update portion. So let's get started. Let's first talk about my Freckled Whimsy Advent socks. So if you remember, I have knit this Advent this is the 2nd year for Freckled Whimsy, and I always knit a pair of socks for me and a pair for my mom, and this year was no exception. So I have 2 pairs of Freckled Whimsy Advent socks, and I have 1 finished sock so far. The other 3 socks are all at the heel. I had them all in various stages for a little while, and then I got to the heel and I decided, okay, it was, I think, the first weekend I was sick, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to get all these heels in so that way I know that I can just pick them up and start knitting. So in between watching some movies and taking some naps, I put in 8 heels because I'm doing the Cozy Knitter and the Freckled Whimsy, and I have 2 pairs of each. So I have 8 socks. And so this is my first Freckled Whimsy. Freckled Whimsy's advent does, all the skeins do not start on the same stripe color. Mine, let me get both of these up here. So these are my 2 pairs. I have the one finished and one is past the gusset decreases, and this pair I just got past the heel and I've got the gusset stitches picked up, and I will knit on this after I finish this sock. So I'm going to do them a pair at a time at this point. Yeah, so I knit my mom's socks 5 rows shorter than I knit mine, and so the pair that I have one finished sock on is actually her sock. So, and then let's talk about Cozy Knitter. Same thing. I have one sock finished, and its mate is just past the heel. I haven't even finished the gusset decreases on that. And my second pair is at the same place. It is at, it is just past the heel. So same thing. I'm just going to, I'll finish this one and then I'll move on to the next sock until I get them all done. So they are just to a nice, easy knitting point. Especially once I get through those gusset decreases. And I am excited to have these in my collection of socks. I have to say, that is a favorite part of my day, to open up my sock drawer and pick a pair of socks. Do you knit socks? I just think they are the most comforting knit. And I love having that little hidden secret from the world that I am wearing hand knit socks. Nobody knows but me, but I love that I can wear a piece of my hand knitting every day, and I don't have to worry about it getting snagged or something on it if I'm cooking, things like that. So, I love them. I love them all. I love them striped. I love them scrappy. I love them solid. I tend to knit mostly vanilla socks. I will throw a textured sock in there from time to time, but I tend to just be vanilla socks. It's just my go-to. Today I am wearing these stripy socks. I believe these are Nomadic Yarns, one of hers, but I love them. If you know, you've probably seen, I love orange and pink together. So these socks just checked all of those boxes, and I knit them several years ago. I've got Chet down here looking at me. Hi, Chet. There he goes. There he goes. Yep. I don't know where he's going. He's going to go sit over there. Okay. And my third project on the needles is my field sweater. If you watched my Vlogmas, you know that I was really trying to get this done in time for Christmas, and it did not happen. And it was actually ended up being fine because Christmas Day here was close to 50 degrees, so I would not have worn this sweater anyways because it would have been too warm. So this is the field sweater by Camilla, right? Is that right? Ooh, I think it is. I think it is. Yes, I believe. And I've seen all of the beautiful one color versions, and I love them. I may even do a one color version at some point, because this has been so fun to knit. Um, it has these fun grain stitches here, and once you're through that, of course, it's just like your standard stockinette sweater knitting. So before Christmas, I got through the grain stitches, and I believe I had separated for the sleeves, and then time just petered out. Excuse me. So I did not get any further. And I honestly had not even worked on this until last night. I picked it up when we were watching, we watched Waitress. That came out on movie as a musical version. And my husband and daughter had gone and seen it in the theater. And it is like her favorite musical. So we bought it and watched that last night. It was really good. I highly recommend it. So, so this is my field sweater. I have probably at least 5 or 6 inches until the ribbing, and then I have the sleeves. So this will be a nice warm sweater. It is a DK weight sweater, and it is so windy out. I don't know if you can hear that. It's so windy. I've had this green in my stash for years. I bought it at a yarn shop up in Westchester, New York, years ago, probably 10 years ago. And the red, it's a DK weight Madelinetosh, and the red is a sport weight Madelinetosh. Blood Runs Cold, I believe, is the colorway. And I was given a couple skeins of this, and I had like 4 skeins of the green. I bought it before I really knew what a sweater quantity was. So it has sat in my stash and never been enough yarn for me to knit a long sleeve pullover cardigan sweater. So when I saw the field sweater and I saw a 2-color version, my brain went to pairing these two for Christmas. I think they just go really, really well together. I'm very happy with how it's come together, and I can't wait to wear it. I really hope I finish it this year, or, like while it's still cold, while it's winter, because I will wear it. I will wear it. I don't care if it is red and green. I will wear it. So I am alternating skeins, so I am helical knitting the green. I did not need to do that for the red. I actually held the red sport weight together with a mohair, and so it has a nice little fuzziness to it. So this feels like a long-term project, and I think I need to get that out of my brain so that I get this off the needles. I do not want to carry this into spring. I want it done because I want to start something else. I don't know what, but I want to start something else. Okay, so that is everything that is on my needles that I am working on. Yeah. So let's talk about what is off my needles. A scrappy Musselburgh hat is off the needles. This was a fun little experiment. So if you have been around for any length of time, you know my love of the Musselburgh hat. It is a pattern by Isolde Teague. It is one of her swatchless hat patterns. Swatchless meaning you begin at, okay, here's the beginning. So it's a great big tube with increases and decreases for the crown, and you take one of the ends and you put it up into the other, and then you can roll up your brim from there. That's the basic construction of this hat. So it is a swatchless pattern, which means you pick any yarn that you like and you pick needles that you think are appropriate. So one that you think you will like the fabric of, as far as it's not too lightweight or it's not too thick and stiff. I held two fingering weight yarns together. I have made fingering weight and DK and sport weight versions of this hat. And I like them all equally. I made this one using leftovers that I wound into a great big um, magic knot ball, and I wound it up, and I held two strands of fingering weight yarn together. I pulled one strand from the middle and one from the outside, and that is how I marled my colors together. I love, love, love not having to choose the next color. For some reason, that just gives me a mental roadblock, and I don't like to stop knitting. So I love the element of surprise and the element of not knowing what color is coming up next and or how it will look with the other yarn that I am holding it with. I think another really fun version of this would be to hold one strand the entire time, like a black or a cream or a pink, and then just change one yarn in and out. But that's not what I did. I held two together and they changed independently of each other. However, I will say I must have wound them all these colors up to almost the same unintentionally amount, because my color changes of the yarns really, they lined up. There's very little change happening mid colors. So that was interesting to me. I really thought that they were going to be more scattered, but it was like one color would change in my magic knot ball, and then a couple, maybe one or two rounds later, the other color would change. I was like, I really thought, they'd be a little more offset than that. But I just think it's really, really fun to see how colors melt together and create something new. So this is a DK weight hat. I haven't blocked it yet. I think this side is my favorite because it's got pink and orange up here. Yeah, I think this is my favorite. All right. I don't normally try on hats, but I'm going to because I love this hat. I love this pattern. All right. Short hair is kind of hard with hats, but that is my Scrappy Monster Musselburgh. This is not the last one I will make. In fact, my college kid was already like, I would wear that. I would kind of like that. And then her sister was like, well, I kind of want one too. And when I was knitting it, my husband said, yeah, I would wear that even if it had pink in it. I'd wear it. So this hat may not be mine. I don't know. We'll see. But so I wound up, I didn't know exactly how much yarn it would take. So I wound up a 250 gram Scrappy magic knot cake. Just because I thought, okay, that might be more than I need. And it was. I used, what did I use? I used 202 grams in this hat. So I had 48 grams of my scrappy ball left, and it's already down in my sewing room with my winder and my extra scraps because I will probably add to it. But even if you had a couple of random smaller monster balls, you could just tie on the next one when you run out. So anywho, it was really fun. And yeah, was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, my only modification that I made was I knit the length of the hat 1/4 of an inch longer, which is kind of subjective, I guess, because it depends on how much you stretch it when you're measuring or, things like that. So maybe I didn't knit it any longer, but I do not mind having any extra brim to turn up. So I'd rather the brim be maybe a little longer rather than too short. That's just my personal preference. I know I wear mine with the brim turned up. My husband wears his with the brim turned up. And for the most part, my girls do too. So yeah, so I plan to add to the leftovers from this one and wind up another like 200, little over 200 gram skein and get another one started and on the needles because it's just so nice to pick up. And apparently I have 3 more that I need to make. So super excited about busting out some of my scraps and leftovers. I have a lot of leftovers from socks that I make or other projects, and I just need to stop hoarding them because I have some of my favorites in there, some hot pinks and things like that. And I don't know, I hate to like use them up. But the great thing about the magic cake, I don't always wind the entire leftover in one section. I think going forward, I almost want smaller sections of color change. So I'm going to experiment with that and put smaller, trying to vary my lengths that I do also. But I want some shorter color changes. So I will put smaller amounts. I also use mini skeins on these. And I think going forward, I might split those in half and only put half of them on. I just tend to wound up all 20 grams or so that most of mine are. So that's my plan going forward. But again, Musselburgh, great pattern, lots of versatility. Oh, I started this because there is a knit along on Instagram hosted by Sue at SM Carn, CARN, and Jessie of Circle Toes. They, I believe, hosted this last year and maybe even the year before, but they are calling it the Monster Musselburgh Cow 2024. It's on my Instagram for sure, if that's not the right handle for the hashtag. But they are lovely ladies and host a wonderful knit along with some prizes. So that is where the inspiration for this hat came from. And I thought about doing a fingering weight and just using up little bits here and there, but then I really, really like the DK weight Musselburgh. So, and I love holding 2 strands together and seeing how that comes out. I knit a blanket like this with 3 strands several years ago, and that was really fun. So this was kind of just an extension of that. Okay, I think that's enough talk about my scrappy monster Musselburgh. Are you tired of hearing about it? Have you knit a Musselburgh yet? Are you going to do a scrappy one? You could. It's really fun. The magic knot that I am talking about as far as the magic knot ball, it is a knot that you do, and when you pull it, it will not come undone. So the way I handled that in my hat, I use the Very Pink Knits tutorial for the magic knot ball. I'll try to link that below. If not, I believe it's linked in my Ravelry page for this hat. So the way I handled those ends, so once you tie your little knot, and it's really not complicated, you're basically, you know what, I'm not even going to describe it because I will make it sound confusing. But when you have your knot, you can trim the ends super duper short. And so that is what I did. Let me see if I can find one. So there is no weaving in ends. That's important to state, I believe. So here's one. I'll put it so it's kind of sticking up. Can you see it? Like right there. See if there's another one that's easy to see. Because the whole idea is that these teeny tiny knots just like kind of melt into the fabric. So here's another one. I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. This one actually is sticking out. Yeah, you can kind of see it. But I think once I block it, it's going to drop down in there. And you could always kind of take a little crochet hook or something and try and work it back in. But I think of it as mistakes. There's an old saying that if you can't see the mistake if a man on a horse riding by couldn't see your mistake, then it's not really noticeable unless you point it out. So don't point it out. So that is how I got away with no weaving in ends, is doing that magic knot. That's why I did the magic knot. And also just to eliminate having to choose and tie on a new yarn or weave in an end. That is how I managed that. And I am very, very happy with it. So let me know if you are going to try a scrappy Musselburgh hat, or if you have knit one yet, or if you haven't. If you haven't, you should, especially if you need a nice warm hat. Okay, did I totally wreck my hair? All right, that is all I have for knitting projects, but I wanted to share, I think I showed last year, I started well, I didn't start it, I've always had one, but last year I kind of did a little bit more of an intentional format to a little knitting book. I use and love Ravelry for taking really, really detailed notes and things that I know that I might want to look back on and remember. But I also am just a paper and pen kind of girl. So I had this rifle paper code notebook just sitting around, not doing anything with it. And so I decided, let's use the pretty notebook and let's use it to be my knitting journal. So I've always kept a notebook of sorts, where I keep notes for projects, or maybe write down some ideas, or I will use it to write down maybe a list of things that I want to knit for Christmas, or things, just kind of like writing down a list of whips, things that are on the needles that I want to get done, or just kind of a place to write it all down and see, oh geez, I really kind of have a lot of projects going right now, and maybe I should think about getting some of those done or eliminating some. So that's how I've used my notebook in the past. A lot of times it's a mix of just writing down throughout the year what I have finished, but then also keeping notes on things. Just, we all doodle down little notes on our projects. So last year I decided to be a little bit more intentional with that. And I started out my notebook by writing down, and I think I'm going to use the same kind of format this year, but I haven't filled out new pages or anything. But I started out with projects that I was bringing into 2023. And then I also wrote down some dream projects that were on my mind at that point, of things that I wanted to knit. And as the year went by, I checked off things that I had finished. And then I love to see what I finish within the month. So this year I decided, I've done it different ways. I've done it where I have kept track of, maybe on one page I would have the month, and then I would write down the projects that I started, and then I would write down the ones that I finished. And so each month it wouldn't always be that I would start and finish it. So it was kind of fun to see how long things took me. But then I felt like, I didn't really do anything with that information after I did it. So last year I decided to just track monthly what I finished. So that is what this next page is. Just socks or projects, not all, like, it was a lot of socks. But I wrote down the month, the project name, whatever I probably named it in Ravelry or would make me remember what it was, and then just the date that I finished it. I didn't write down the start date. I didn't write down any other details about it. I figure all of that is on Ravelry. I just wanted to know in each month, what did I finish? It's kind of fun to look back over the years and see if there's a pattern to your knitting, when you knit more or less, things like that. So I did that. That only took up 2 pages for me. And then I wanted to have a page I can get to it. I have a couple blank pages here. Kind of sad about that. Like, I feel like I'm wasting a couple pages, but it's all good. I just didn't know how much room I would need. So, and then this page is probably my favorite, most used page. I wanted to track the socks that I made last year, what ones I made for me and what ones I made for my mom, because like I said, I primarily knit socks for me and a pair for her, and I try to keep us pretty even. So, that basically happened. We'll talk about that. And then I also just had a page where I wrote down sweaters, hats, shawls, just in case I knit some of those. I knit 0 shawls this year. I was kind of surprised by that, or in 2023. I knit a ton of hats. So then my last page is just my yearly project totals. I'll just run through this really quickly. Some years I knit a whole lot, other years I don't. This year I knit a total of 27 pairs of socks. 13 of those were for me, 11 were for my mom, and I knit a pair for my sister, and then a pair for each of my girls for Christmas. So 27 total socks. I knit 8 hats. I knit 5 Musselburgh, 2 Porty, and 1 Forth. Those are all Isolde Teague patterns, all swatchless hat patterns. Those are going to be in my tool belt for years. I knit 1 sweater, the daily pullover. I actually had started that, I believe, even in 2022, and I finished it in 2023. And then I knit a little mini, 2 little kitty cats and a bag. And that is my finished objects for 2023. So looking at that, I'm like, okay, I want to knit more sweaters. And I don't know how I'm exactly going to make that happen, but that is a goal that I have. Yeah. And so then the rest of my notebook, I didn't use all of this at all. I only used this many pages in it for 2023. So this will be a nice long-term book. But I put some things in here, just different patterns that I was pursuing over the course of the year, notes on patterns and things like that. So I will be getting 2024 sock list written up in here and all that. So this will be on my to-do list. I just didn't want to do it when I didn't feel good. So that is my knitting notebook. And okay, then I promised that I would tell you what I have been reading and listening to and watching. So I recently finished the book Holly by Stephen King. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. As you may or may not know, Holly was a character in his Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and he just branched off and gave her own book, and so that was wonderful. I think it came out this past fall. I highly recommend Holly, but if you have not read the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, I very much recommend reading that first. And the books in that series is Mr. Mercedes, End of Watch, and there's one more. I don't remember the name of it, and it's covered up there. I was looking at my bookshelf. I have all of my Stephen King books right out here with my knitting. So that's what I recently finished, and I highly, highly, highly recommend Holly by Stephen King. I am currently reading in paperback The Woman in the Photo. It's by Mary Hogan. It is a book that has the chapters go back and forth between present day and in the past, like late 1800s. And I'm about a quarter of the way through that. I read that book every night before bed. So my actual like book reading doesn't go quite as fast as some of my Audible audiobooks do. Just because I only read it before bed. So, but it is a very good book so far. I recommend it as of now. I am currently listening to Britney Spears, The Woman in Me, her biography that came out in late fall. I'll be honest, I have never been like for her music, I've just been kind of a radio fan. I never bought any of her albums, things like that. She kind of became really popular, and I was kind of, it just wasn't something I listened to at that point in my life. So, but, you know, I know her music from the radios, and she has kind of a sad story. She doesn't have, she didn't have an upbringing that was necessarily really great. So I don't know. I find it interesting to have a peek into some of those celebrities that maybe seem like they have it all. So that is what I'm listening to. What I have been watching and absolutely love is All Creatures Great and Small. It is on PBS and Amazon. It is a series. I believe it's a remake. There was one from like the 90s, I think. But this one is a newer remake, and it was recommended by Summer Lee Knits. She's a sock and knitting designer, and she's summer.lee.knits on Instagram. Her patterns are fabulous. She just came out with a sock set that is inspired by the knits on All Creatures Great and Small. So if you want to show, it's about James Herriot. He is a veterinarian. He was a veterinarian, and just a really beautiful show. The storyline is easy. There's beautiful scenery. It's over in Ireland, I believe. And they just have beautiful knitwear, and there's animals, and the characters are just delightful, and the cinematography is beautiful. And who doesn't love a show with some hand knits in it? So, yeah, so now I'm kind of wanting to knit that Derby socks set, but I got to finish some other things first, because that's just how my brain is working lately. So, but yes, highly recommend All Creatures Great and Small. And I have the books of that, and I've had them for years. I know my mom and my grandpa both read them when I was a kid. They plowed through a ton of his, and so now I kind of want to read those books. So, yeah. So I think that is all I have for today. I need to go get my snack mix in the oven. And thanks for hanging out with me. This was super fun. I'm glad that, you came over when I'm feeling better. I feel like I'm starting to need a tissue, so I need to go. Stay warm, stay cozy. I hope you get lots of stolen minutes in your days to knit or crochet or whatever makes you happy. And thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.